My background's actually on Wall Street. I worked at Goldman Sachs for almost 20 years. I also served my church. And one of the things that I saw very clearly was those who serve their local church do so with so much heart and a laser focus so that we can serve our people well. One of the risks of being so laser focused on what's going on inside your own church is that we don't often look around and ask ourselves, who else is doing something similar that I can learn from? When you have a need, you figure it out yourself. And you don't think maybe there's another church who has actually created this program already. And that's one of the things that we're hoping that Faithfully can help to enhance is just this awareness that there are others who are doing what you're doing, maybe in a slightly different zip code or slightly different context, and we can make each other better.
Welcome to the Inheritance of Hope podcast. Every day, 562 children lose a parent to terminal illness. They shouldn't have to face that alone. You can pretend to avoid the painful realities of illness, grief, and death, or you can deal with the real stuff in caring community. On the podcast, people in Inheritance of Hope's community share raw, personal stories of pain, trials, and the shadow of death, which are also stories of joy in terminal illness. Find more Inheritance of Hope community at inheritanceofhope.org. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Inheritance of Hope podcast. I'm Ellie, your host, and I'm joined with a guest today from Faithfully, which is another organization we want to highlight during this helpful resource series, just because there are so many great organizations and resources out there that our Inheritance of Hope family should know about. So without further ado, I'll let her take it over from here, introduce herself, and tell us a little bit about the work that she does at Faithfully.
Thank you so much, Ellie. It's been a privilege to get to know Inheritance of Hope, the folks on your team, the heart behind your ministry. And it's such an honor to be able to talk to you today and to share what it is we do at Faithfully with your community. So Faithfully is a company that I started a few years ago, and we started it to be something like a LinkedIn for Christians who are serving the church, Christians who are in ministry. What does that mean? It means it's a digital networking platform where folks who are in ministry can come on, create profiles, connect with one another. We've got a job board, groups, events, and other resources. It's really meant to be a resource that promotes connection and collaboration in the church and community amongst church leaders.
I love how targeted it is. There's so much noise out there, and it's such a burden on the user to have to sort through all of these things just to find what's applicable to you. So it sounds like cuts out a lot of the work and just presents what a lot of people are looking for in a very clean way.
Yeah, we hope so. I think we are in a generation of technology where the big have gotten enormous, right? We all know what the big social media and other tech platforms are. And big can be great in many ways, but oftentimes those who need specific help when it comes to networking and connection can often get lost in the mix. So if you look at LinkedIn as one of the biggest networking platforms, it does serve the average professional really well. But over the last 20 years, as it's grown in size and prominence and scale, there are a lot of groups of people who looked at it and said, it's not really serving my needs. Teachers said that, lawyers, doctors. These are high trust, high relationship, high credentialed professions who said, we need our own digital networking platform. And you know what? No one's done it for church leaders yet. No one has up until now created one for those who are serving the church, not just vocational pastors, but other ministry leaders, worship leaders, folks who are volunteering in the nursery, people on elder boards. And that's just the four walls of the church. One of the things that has been really exciting for me to learn about as I've built Faithfully is that the church and the ministry ecosystem extends far beyond the four walls of the church. And it includes incredible organizations like Inheritance of Hope, which are hands and feet of Jesus and are part of the ministry ecosystem. And so, what we're looking to do is to offer a digital networking solution to everyone in the ministry ecosystem. And that's one of the unique things about ministry is that it includes a lot of different kinds of people who are serving in a lot of different kinds of ways.
Right. Yeah, churches are built around volunteers, and I know
Yeah.
Inheritance of Hope relies so heavily on volunteers. And a lot of times, volunteers tell people in their churches, and then we get more volunteers that way. So sometimes being on the parking team or the greeting team at a church might not be where you feel missionally called to, but working with young families facing the loss of a parent due to terminal illness, that might kind of light the fire in your heart. I love that Faith Week serves that purpose of, hey, what are the options out there? How can we get more people plugged in?
There was something in what you just said that really struck a nerve with me. You said, sometimes people are learning about opportunities in church. I think the church sort of world is very word of mouth. And that's great because that means that when you hear about something from a friend, you know it's something important and it's something you're going to look into and you feel like it's going to be for you. But something that I think the church at large has left on the table a little bit is tools and resources from a technology standpoint that can take all the things that we do naturally, like talk with one another, share opportunities, collaborate. I think technology has the power to amplify that, to take what we're already doing, what comes naturally to us, and just take it to another level. And that's what we hope Faithly brings to the table.
With talking about this kind of collaboration or how the worlds meet between Faithly and Inheritance of Hope, obviously a lot of people within the Inheritance of Hope family will be listening to this episode. So can you share why someone who is maybe receiving services with Inheritance of Hope or volunteering, why should they know about Faithly and what should they know specifically about this platform?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those in the Inheritance of Hope community, many of those will be Christians. Maybe not everyone, but many. And many will be churchgoers. And I really hope that many are serving the church in some way, if not now, then in the future. I know that you're on the same page about believing in the priesthood of believers, meaning like we're all called to serve and to lead in some capacity. And so my hope is that for your listeners, if they're serving the church today or sometime in the future, that they'll check out Faithfully. They may not find our job board to be particularly relevant. A lot of the jobs on our job board are to work at churches. Some of the jobs on the job board are to work for Christian nonprofits, but a lot of them are for churches. But there's a lot of other stuff there that can help people who are serving the church. We have different ministry groups, kind of the way that you might find groups on Facebook with all different kinds of topics and focuses and people getting together. We have that on Faithly, and it's all centered around ministry. We have events, virtual events you can join to talk about and to share ideas and to learn about different aspects of ministry. We have a blog with incredible articles that talk about ministry leadership, serving, and we hope will help people to think about ministry in different ways. It might even be the answers to questions that they have. So that's how I hope that your community can engage with Faithfully now and over time.
Walk me through some of the logistics of it. Do you need to create an account? Is it something that you can access even if your church is not part of it? What does it look like as a user entering into it for the first time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our platform is very much centered around people. There are many organizations that have profiles, and many organizations are posting jobs in our job board, but it really starts and ends with people. So, Ellie, what you would do if you wanted to create a profile on Faithly, if you wanted to join Faithly, is you would either go to faithly.co, faithly.co on your browser, or you download our app. You can find our app in the App Store or on Google Play if you're an Android user. You can go to either your browser or to the app and you would create a profile, which is free. Creating a profile on Faithly is just like creating a profile on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. You could provide as little or as much information about yourself as you want, and that's it. You're on the platform. It takes less than 5 minutes. Like I said, it's free. And from there, you can start to tap into the ministry ecosystem. We've got over 5,000 ministry leaders on our platform already. So you can search them. You can search them by name, by how they serve the church. You can search by geography, where they are. You can find ministry leaders in your area, and that's kind of it. That you've started using Faithly, and from there you can navigate a lot of the different tools and resources that I was sharing with you before.
Mm. I hope people listening to this feel prompted to utilize this service. What I am envisioning, obviously, this isn't the only use case, but if you are a volunteer with Inheritance of Hope or a donor or just involved in some way, and you are already sharing about Inheritance of Hope with your circles, that this is just an elevated version of that. Like I think of my husband and I are small group leaders at our church. And we've volunteered on a couple legacy retreats with Inheritance of Hope. And every time we come back and we are showing pictures to everyone in our small group, and those people in the small group have been donors generously because they've heard the impact that Inheritance of Hope has on young families who are going through something really, really difficult and just are craving that community. It's hard not to buy into that and to lean in further when someone you love is talking about something that they love. And so I hope that if you love Inheritance of Hope and you're already sharing about it with the people face to face with you, let's take that to a platform like Faithly so that more people can get invited into these stories.
Yeah, that's a great call to action for your community, Ellie. We talked about big tech getting bigger. And I think one of the implications of that is like there's just so much noise all around us, right? Like you open up your laptop screen or you open up your phone and you've got so much coming at you. And the only thing that cuts through that noise is people's stories. That's how you know what's real. That's how you get pulled into what matters and how you're going to make a difference and how you're going to serve.
Yeah. And it sounds like the heartbeat behind this organization, this platform, is ultimately connection and community. When you contrast that against something like LinkedIn or other big tech companies, I don't know that that is actually what is at the bottom line. It's normally profit or just engagement. How long can we keep people on this app? How long can we get their attention? So to shift away from something like that, it just causes so much fatigue
Yeah.
to something where it's, no, how can we drive connection with other people in a similar situation is so essential.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of the reasons why I started Faithfully. So my background, I've never worked for a church. I've served at my church as a volunteer for over a decade, but I've never been employed by my church. And I actually don't have a background in technology. My background's actually on Wall Street. I worked at Goldman Sachs for almost 20 years. But at the same time, I also served my church. And one of the things that I saw very clearly was those who serve their local church do so with so much heart and a laser focus that I think God has put on us so that we can serve our people well. And I think that one of the risks of being so laser focused on what's going on inside your own church is that we don't often look around and ask ourselves, who else is doing something similar that I can learn from? Who else is doing church maybe a few blocks from me that I can share resources with? I don't know that we think often enough that way. We also keep reinventing the wheel. When you have a need, you figure it out yourself. And you don't think maybe there's another church who has actually created this program already or who already has a curriculum already written for the children or for youth that like you could borrow from. Anyway, that's one of the things that we're hoping that Faithfully can help to enhance is just this awareness that there are others who are doing what you're doing, maybe in a slightly different zip code or slightly different context, and we can make each other better.
I want to hear what prompted you to start Faithly and leave your background and pursue something like this where you technically didn't have the background to
Yeah.
pursue it or education.
It was really a pivotal moment in my life. What happened is I was up for a promotion in my job. And I was so sure that I was going to get it. I mean, I should put it this way. I really wanted it, and I was so sure I deserved it. And, God actually spoke to me, like, in that waiting period of waiting for that promotion. He spoke to me through one of the elders at my church, and God made it really clear to me, "Hey, I'm in control here. And if I want you to have this promotion, it'll happen like that." And he made it clear to me that if it doesn't come through, then there's something else that he wants from me. And Goldman Sachs just isn't, it's not a bad place. Like, I had a great career there, met my husband there, met some of my best friends there. It served me and I learned so much from it. But God made it clear that, like, if I didn't get that promotion, that's not where he wanted me anymore. So I heard that clearly. Months go by. I'm still very focused on getting this promotion. And when it ultimately didn't come through, I was really, really sad, really upset. Like, I had to grieve it. I had envisioned my entire career there, and I really enjoyed my job and all the people I worked with, my clients. And so when the promotion didn't come through, I had to grieve it. But I also had this word that I knew I had gotten from the Lord that it was time to move on. And so when I was done grieving, I started to sort of cast about for, well, what am I going to do next? And I really thought that my next move was going to be at another bank or in fintech or at a fund, because I have a career in financial services. These are all things
Mhm.
that, like, would be very natural next steps. But, I woke up one morning and out of nowhere, I just had this thought. It was almost like it was pressed upon me, LinkedIn for ministry. It's not like I sat down and said, "Hey, how can I combine my faith and my professional life?" And it wasn't like that. It was this idea, and I was filled with so much curiosity and so much passionate about this idea that I couldn't envision doing anything else. I had interviews lined up, didn't really focus on them, kinda just let opportunities come and go. And ultimately, I formally left my job at Goldman on a Monday, and on a Tuesday, I got myself into a co-working space here in New York City, and I really started to sketch it out and really do the work on, why doesn't LinkedIn work for ministry? Like, why aren't pastors and church volunteers and Christian nonprofit practitioners, why aren't they on some kind of a digital network? I had to really answer those questions before I could figure out, does ministry want faithfully? Like, does the church
Mhm.
want faithfully? Like, should I be doing this? And so I did all kinds of things to help to answer that question. I cold called many pastors. I didn't know that many pastors. I knew the pastors of my church. Like I said, I didn't go to seminary. I don't work at a church. I knew my pastors, but then I just called a whole bunch of them and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting this. What do you think?" And there was just enough receptivity. People were like, "Yeah, I could see the need for that." That it gave me, the hope to continue working on it. And really, when I started Faithfully and really started to build Faithfully, it was with the goal of really answering that question. It's taken us a few years to answer that question. Does the church want and need Faithfully? And it's only at this point that I'm able to say yes with a ton of confidence and enthusiasm. And what gives me that confidence and enthusiasm is just seeing our data. Something that has blown me away that has emerged from our data is that over a quarter of the connection requests that get sent across the Faithfully platform get accepted. What that means is if I send you a connection request but you don't accept, that does not count. But if I send you a connection request and you do accept, then that counts towards that, 25, 26% acceptance rate that we have. And that's kind of unheard of in the internet landscape, right? Like, LinkedIn doesn't reach 25%. If you look at Facebook or Instagram, the engagement rates that include acceptances, we're talking about single digits,
Mhm.
right? So what we see in our data is this intentionality around connection on our platform and this excitement to connect with folks in this way that, like, we don't think others are seeing anywhere else on the internet. So we're really excited about what we've learned over the past few years and to build and keep serving people going forward.
Thank you for your boldness to listen to those prompts. It sounds like take that leap of faith where you don't know where you're gonna land, if you're gonna land, and just see what it's turned into. That's just such an amazing testimony.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot from this whole thing, just for sort of simplicity of telling the story. I shared with you that I heard from God. I felt like I had this, like, this vision pressed upon me. But something that I've learned over the last few years, I did an interview yesterday with the executive director of the Jesus Film Project, and he put it so well. We hear from God, but there's this wisdom that's required and this experience to like tangle that from our own desires and like our own ideas. And part of taking this leap of faith and doing what I'm doing with Faithly has been an exercise in developing that wisdom and that discernment. Because how can any of us be totally and 100% sure we heard from God about this or about that? There has to be wisdom and discernment, and we can never really be sure. But what are the things we do to gain more confidence? And how can we move forward and keep building even if we don't have perfect confidence? How can we be God honoring and bring him glory? Let's just say that I'm wrong and this just was like a cockamamie idea that came out of my sock drawer. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Like if I'm giving it to him and doing it in his name and trying to serve the kingdom and trying to serve those who are serving the kingdom, those are things that I've wrestled with and hopefully learned a little bit about over the past few years.
Yeah. Well, I know it's an encouragement for me to hear this, and I hope for our listeners to hear that too, because I feel like a lot of times in our life, we're kind of faced with those opportunities to leave what's comfortable or to surrender to, I might not get this promotion. I really want it. I feel like I need to leave this job, but I don't know what's next. Where is this coming from? So I think even just hearing testimonies and stories where people are doing that in action is really inspiring and encouraging. So thank you for sharing that and sharing about this incredible platform. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to speak on?
No, I think you've asked all the right questions, Ellie. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Faithfully and to share my story. Stories are everything. They have the power to increase faith. And I hope that someone who's listening will be encouraged, that will have his or her faith increased, even if they never visit Faithfully, even if they forget all about us. I hope that our conversation today has done that for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time, and we will link any pertinent links in our show notes in the description. So feel free to browse through that, explore Faithfully, sign up. But yeah, thank you for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Ellie.